Your feeling of helplessness is your best friend, savage.
Are you able to understand the irony of responding to the perceived political correctness of the left with exasperated reactionary hypersensitivity of your own?
When I mostly over-exaggerate, it's mostly for comedic effect, and I would imagine it's the same for all the other anti-SJW channels here on this little website.
What is it with you people in skulls?
What's up with you lot all looking like complete pedophiles?
How do you define right-wing?
Personally, I live in the United Kingdom, so left and right wing are virtually meaningless to me.
Anti-SJWs
Only retards use air quotations.
often have an aversion to being labelled as right-wing, yet they regularly defend the right and bash the left.
Personally, I bash both sides when they're spewing stupid horse shit.
Therefore, why is being labelled right-wing a bad thing to you?
Personally, I always consider myself to be somewhere in the middle.
And if it's because right-wing is used as a pejorative, can you not see how labelling people as SJWs or regressives is also pejorative?
Personally, I don't use the word SJW, but personally, I think it's more of an insult rather than a pejorative. And plus, most of you guys self-proclaim to be SJWs. Most of you I would claim as being whiny bitches.
Rather than telling people you disagree with to drink bleach, wouldn't it be more productive for you to have an actual conversation about the issues you feel matter?
You're in a video that happens to have Steve Shives in it, and Steve Shives has blocked so many people to keep his echo chamber so safe and secure that if he ever debated any person on any subject, I will give every person who comments on this video £5.
Or is it just easier to do the bleach thing?
Well, personally, I think it would be easier to climb Mount Everest in my Optimus Prime underpants than it would be to get Steve Shives in an interview.
You claim to be proponents of rational, logical, evidence-based argumentation.
Well, personally, I'm more of a component of arguments based on alcoholism and slight madness, but that's just my point of view.
That's great. That's entirely laudable. But when I look at your online activity, when I look at, I don't know, for example, your Twitter feed.
Twitter is probably the worst place to look for arguments and points of view, because you only have 140 characters to say what you're going to say. To help put that into context for you, most of my videos I end up talking for about 400 to 500 words.
That's often not what I see. How do you reconcile this claim to be evidence-based and rational and logical against stuff like, oh, I was just trolling you, oh, I was just shitposting, or TLDR?
You do know people do need to blow off some steam sometimes by, just randomly shitposting in there. Because if they were 100% logical all the time, it would get very boring, very stupid, and you would end up turning into Steve Shives.
No, seriously? What is it with you people in skulls?
Because skulls are cool, small penis man.
Are you aware that the ridiculous buzzwords you helped to popularize, like SJW and cuck and regressive, have all lost whatever meaning they once had?
And you fully aware you look like a gay porn star?
And only serve now as casual insults and pejoratives to derail any meaningful conversation?
Oh, wait, you serious? Let me laugh even harder.
Well, that's rich coming from you lot. You throw around the word racism, sexism, homophobia, other buzzwords to shut down conversations and disallow speakers and other stuff to shut down conversations that you don't like.
For the last time, what is it with you people and committing actual literal felonies?
Well, I could fill out a small novel of every single evil and vile act that you guys have done. You know, the pedophilia, the frauds, the scams, Not to mention the pedophilia. I'm not joking, there's like 5 SJWs, or people who claim to be SJWs, who are open pedophiles. So I'm sorry. Reminds me of a joke that I said ages ago between giving money to SJWs and pedophiles. I'd rather give my money to pedophiles. I never thought that would actually come around and actually be true, giving my monies to pedophilic SJWs. But anyway, that's a bit beside the point. If you're saying that I'm somehow morally responsible for somebody who does an illegal action, I'm not. Because you're not, because the only person's actions I'm responsible is my own, not other people's. If, let's say, for instance, Sargon of Akkad got arrested for, I don't know, DUI, doesn't mean that I have to answer for him. He only has to speak for himself.
Like, you might want to work on that? I mean, I thought the Ralph retort was so rational when he was fantasizing about beating up women with dyed hair, but then he assaulted a police officer, and finally I was convinced.
Convinced of what? Your own stupidity, hypocrisy, and short-sightedness?
In videos and in the comment sections, anti-feminists often take up the most extreme or the weakest feminist position they can find, or they just straight up misrepresent what the feminist position is. Instead, why not take up the strongest, most robust feminist argument you can find and really challenge yourself?
Why don't you point at the biggest, strongest feminist argument out there? Because I'll take them all on. Purely because I'm that rock hard, strong, and it will make my nipples even rock harder. Grrr!
I am deeply concerned with male addiction rates, suicide rates, and abuse rates, because I have worked with these issues in the quote-unquote real world.
Finally, one of you will actually does something to actually fucking help somebody!
Would you be willing as anti-feminists to put aside your differences with feminists for the greater good of addressing these issues, especially as the kind of solutions needed are not necessarily gendered? And if so, I would actually like you to let me know, because I'm not fucking around or presenting any gotchas here. I actually really think that we could get something done if we work together. So, yeah.
Okay, shoot me up. Tell me your Skype or your any way that you can actually physically contact me, and we could hammer out. We could do a live stream together. We could hammer out some solutions, because unlike the next person who's coming up, I'm not narrow-minded and stupid.
What is third wave feminism?
You're banned! Get away from my fruit! You're banned! You're banned! You're banned!
I'm just looking for the bathroom.
You're banned from that too!
I am banned from the bathroom?
Every bathroom!
No!
All of you! You're all banned! Banned, 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 banned!
Because I've often heard you folks insist that you have no objection to feminism in general.
I don't even have a problem with feminism as a whole. I just have a problem with some individual feminists and some of their goals, like them complaining about air conditioning or anything that Anita Sarkeesian or Gail Dines or that woman who shot Andy Warhol, or Gail Dines, or that woman who I keep forgetting her name, who claimed that Twitter gave her PTSD. I honestly can't be asked to remember her name, because I feel like even remembering her name is giving her too much brain power than is actually strictly necessary.
Specifically third wave feminism that you have a quarrel with. So what is third wave feminism specifically?
Sex negative, narrow-minded, first world problems, wants to control how language plays, or control how everybody thinks, feels, and acts every time, every minute of every day of every second, and is overweight, probably smells like dead monkey ass, and is probably body positivity, and has probably wasted all of her time and money researching gender rather than getting an actual degree that's something that's helpful, like engineering becoming a lawyer or a doctor, something that would actually help push society forward rather than focusing on purely first world problems sort of thing.
And what specifically about third wave feminism do you have such a problem with?
The part that keeps fucking you in the ass because you like that sort of thing because you're a dirty, dirty ass fucking piece of shit that isn't even worthy of me bothering remembering to remember your name properly, you piece of shit of a piece of shit of a piece of shit, cheap Irish bastard cunt, piece of hamster, dead fecal matter that should be get rammed up the butt of a monkey.
Why is it that this feminist represents all feminists?
Triggerlypuff is a self-proclaimed feminist, body positivity, probably smells like a dead monkey ass, is probably a raging dyke deep down inside, probably hates men, but secretly wants to get a badger pounded, even though probably finding the thing would be virtually impossible, and is probably likely to die of a heart attack in the next 5 years or so, so it pretty much has all the negative stereotypes of feminism in its current form.
But this men's rights activist doesn't represent all men's rights activists.
Whoa, wait, sexism all of a sudden? Ladies and men are different? So we're supposed to punch men and not hit ladies and open doors for men but not ladies? Fuck you, get out of my face, you tiny piece of shit.
Well, he doesn't look like an MRA because he doesn't have a fedora on him. But anyway, even if he was an MRA, MRAs and feminists are not monoliths. They're not represented by one person, or should be represented by one person. Personally, because I think people's individual arguments and behaviour should represent themselves, not every person who looks, acts, or has the same political ideology, somewhat, so on and so forth, ideology as they do. Not because only racists and racist idiots think like that.
Why am I continually asked to answer for the views of feminists if I agree with feminism's overall aims, but don't agree much with those particular feminists?
Personally, I don't agree with a lot of what feminism says this day, mainly because a lot of feminism this day comes across as wanting to treat women as the eternally victimized 12-year-olds.
Does that mean that I can ask you to answer for anybody who labels themselves similarly to you, even if you don't agree much?
No, because I only speak for myself, I only represent myself, and my views and my standards are myself and nobody else's.
If SJWs are bad...
First time I saw this video, I thought because of estrogen. I think he meant to say was SJWs are bad.
English, motherfucker! Do you speak it?
Because they spend too much time whining and don't talk about real problems. Then why aren't you talking about those problems instead of just whining about the other people over and over and over for literally years?
This is my fucking channel. I'll upload whatever the fuck I want to, whether it be talking about first world problems, third world problems, talking about other people's problems, or talking about my own. And personally, I wouldn't have a problem with feminist agendas. I wouldn't have that much problem with it if they wouldn't cover themselves in a cloak of righteous indignation, and that they're doing this for the benefit of all people all the fucking time, which they're not. They're not fighting for every person's problem. They're at best fighting for their own problems and maybe a small enclave of people who have to agree with them.
I mean, in the scale of priorities, that's like even lower, right? You know, you've got the real problems, you've got the things that feminists worry about, and then you've got you going, oh, how dare they? Just, how dare they have different priorities from me? Why can't they do what I do? Whine about whining.
Kiss my ass, virgin boy.
Forever. For a living. That's healthy.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Why don't you seem as concerned with actual feminist theory in academia as you are with wrecking people for views?
Personally, I am somewhat worried about academia, mainly because this is where some of the pop culture critics come from. But personally, I leave that shit up to Sargon and Tilda and Thunderfoot, because they seem to be a lot better at it. I personally seem to be more like kicking back, relaxing, and doing this purely for fun and entertainment of myself and the audience who chooses to watch this shit.
Since so many of you profess to be admirers of second-wave feminism as opposed to third-wave feminism, I thought it would be interesting to ask which second-wave feminists in particular do you appreciate?
For me, the perfect indication of everything that I want feminism to be and more like is Christina Hot Summers, the always beautiful, the intelligent, the wise, the person who would like to run my fingers gently through her hair and, baby, she looks so gorgeous right now. Wait a minute, am I still recording this? Oh, ah!
Which books written by second-wave?
You know what, Steve Shives, why don't you get your wife to get her extra large strap-on ready and get her to go fuck your ass? Because that's what my action is going to be tell you. Because you're a small penis motherfucker who gets fucked in the ass by his wife every night.
You do understand that reading the title of a book or an article or watching the first 15 seconds of a video is not going to give you a deep, nuanced understanding of what that book or article or video is about, right?
And why do you think I tend to record my videos on the whole thing, not just a few chunks of it?
That being said, how can you expect to understand or critique feminist sources if you don't even attempt to understand what they're trying to say?
I understand it somewhat fully to the best of my ability.
Why is trying and failing to debunk a study into sexual assault the #1 priority for a rational thinker now?
Are you talking about the 1 in 6 women are likely to get raped on college campus? Which is a load of horse shit. If that was true, there would be more rape going on in college campus in the height of the Congo Civil War. Now, personally, I'm concerned with 2 reasons. 1, it needlessly demonizes men. And 2, inspires fear in women. Because, honestly, I want them to know that society isn't going to go out their way to rape and violate their personal freedoms. Unlike feminists who seem to be going around scaremongering everybody in the fear of righteous indignation.
Does it maybe say something about your priorities? Nah, it's fine, it's the feminazis, we have to stop them. They're taking away our video games.
It's stupid! You're stupid! Stop being stupid!
Look, Anita, I'm sorry, but I can't... We can't actually destroy video games. That doesn't make any sense.
This isn't funny!
One of the major arguments that I see in many of your videos is that it is possible to separate criticism of the religion of Islam from the actual Muslim people. And yet, this line seems to be crossed very often. I see things like raghead or camel fucker or other things like that in your comment sections. I see people taking very serious shots at Muslims in videos and hangouts, and they don't get called out. At least not that I can see. So my question is this: why should a person of conscience who is concerned about the Muslim people and their community not being harmed or mistreated, why should they believe that you're actually only attempting to look at the ideas and talk about the ideas if you ignore bigotry that's occurring right in front of you? And in that light, would you be willing to break bread and salt with moderate Muslim people on your videos, have hangouts, invite them to your channels, just in order to build some bridges there and to learn more about what they think and how they feel and what their experience has been, so that information and knowledge can be furthered?
Oh, I'd break bread and talk with anybody if I thought they were reasonably intelligent enough.
Do you deny that systemic racism against black people is like a thing in general? If so, What? Okay, just step up. Just cover your ears for a second and let the smart people talk.
Oh, wait, you serious? Let me laugh even harder.
If not, why is it so much more important to you to demonize groups like Black Lives Matter than to actually use your platforms to discuss actual solutions to issues surrounding race and racism?
Black History Month you find ridiculous. Why? You're going to relegate my history to a month? Oh, come on. What do you do with yours? Which month is White History Month? No, come on, tell me.
Well, I'm Jewish.
Okay, which month is Jewish History Month?
There isn't one.
Oh, why not?
Yeah.
Do you want one?
No.
I don't either. I don't want a Black History Month. Black history is American history.
How are we going to get rid of racism until...
Stop talking about it. I'm going to stop calling you a white man.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask you to stop calling me a black man. I know you as Mike Wallace. You know me as Morgan Freeman.
If you've ever discussed or done a video about black on black crime, when are you going to do a video about white on white crime and what we, as white people, can do to solve the problems in our community?
Oh my god, the smug tone of that video is off the charts. I'm surprised she didn't kill herself with how smug she sounds. Unless you become a police officer, there is nothing you can do about stopping white on white crime or black on black crime or black on Hispanic or Hispanic on Hispanic, so on and so forth through the racial lists. I mean, at best you can maybe draw attention to it, but attention is a good place to start, but you really have to have a plan set up.
Why is a literal teenager's different definition of racism from you so horrifying that you all have to get...
Milo Stewart's absolutely hilarious. Funny enough, it's kind of sad that she takes herself 100% seriously.
Go, no! No, we have to stop him! We've got to debunk him now! Ah!
God, it's like you just use words you hear randomly to try and sound smarter.
Wherever did you get the idea that racism was a...
Fuck you, you small penis piece of shit.
You often say that you are for equality of opportunity, but if people of color, for instance, have to overcome barriers whites do not, such as discrimination and unequal treatment, as are well documented in various studies, then how can the current situation be thought of as equal opportunity in any real way? And why do you consider it racist to discuss these issues?
Neither do I think it's racist to discuss the point. The only problem I have with it is that you guys seem to be taking it way too far, way too serious, and way too hard.
Do you understand basic English syntax? Like, you know, if I say this cat is pretty, I don't mean that all other cats aren't pretty. Like, do you really not get why saying all lives matter in response to Black Lives Matter is not only racially insensitive, but just patently ridiculous?
Isn't it offensive to men to assume that a man could only ever want equality for women and therefore be comfortable with feminism as a whole in order to get laid, and that reduces us to beasts? If that was the case, wouldn't I attempt to get laid from my views instead of not ever trying that?
Well, personally, I'm not going to go through all this hoopla about supporting feminism or saying or doing what Steve Shives does to get laid. I'll just call for a hooker and just cut the middleman. You don't have to go through all this elaborate charades if you want to have sex, because prostitution does exist.
If you say you're an egalitarian, will you call out the man-hating slurs that you see coming from people within your community? People who use terms like cuck, beta male, faggot, or mangina. All of these things basically distill men down into thinking that the most important thing about them is to be having sex with a woman. That's rather offensive.
How about fuck you? Yeah, fuck you and kiss my ass. I'll offend anybody, insult anybody that I want to. And fuck you, and if you don't like it.
What are you doing to stop this kind of behavior in your community?
Absolutely fucking nothing. Which is the exact same thing your side does in the debate.
What is the number of followers, the number of likes, the number of dislikes, the number of retweets, the number of subscribers, any of those numbers, any of those metrics, what have they got to do with the argument?
Absolutely fucking nothing, but it gets a good level of traction so your argument can get out there and meet more people and maybe picked up or discussed with more people.
Deepak Chopra, for example, a man who trots out an endless stream of pseudoscientific quantum woo bollocks.
Sounds like Steve Shives.
Has nearly 3 million followers. So what? Those people follow him because he tells them what they want to hear. Why even mention the number of followers you have? What difference does it make?
Absolutely fucking nothing.
Why is it that you go on and fucking on about safe spaces and trigger warnings and delicate little flowers?
Because trigger warnings, safe spaces, and delicate little flowers are all stupid, bullshit, fucking idiots, and anybody who uses them deserves to have the biggest and heaviest object thrown at them with enough force that hopefully it will knock some sense into them.
But continue to hide behind your cartoon avatars and your childish pseudonyms.
I like hiding behind my avatar and my childish pseudonyms, mainly because it helps to keep the internet at arm's length way and nobody can go after my job or contact my friends and family and tell them what I've been doing, even though my friends and family actually know roughly what I do on the internet.
And whenever anyone calls you out on your sexist, racist, homophobic, bigoted rhetoric, you become the argument of your own scorn and are hashtag triggered, as they say.
I'll be surprised if anybody called me racist, sexist, maybe from certain points of view. Well, partially because I don't like Anita Sarkeesian or call feminists out, but calling feminists out isn't the same as being sexist.
Are you willing to publicly acknowledge and admonish the massive amount of hatred, bullying, harassment, and intimidation that a lot of your fans infringe upon people? And I don't mean these tiny disclaimers that you put under the description fold or flash for 2 seconds at the beginning of the video that you know nobody reads. I mean a public and ongoing anti-bullying stance. Or do you kind of like watching your fans go around harassing people and calling them slurs and telling them to kill themselves? You kind of like it, don't you? I mean, if that's your thing, and I guess that's just what you're into, just makes you a dick.
Look, everybody to a point gets a certain level of online harassment. I personally hold it against the single person doing the online harassment. I don't blame video games. I don't blame bigger YouTube users. I don't blame society as a large. I just blame that one individual person for sending that one individual bit of harassment.
Why do you find it so hard to believe that feminists are being harassed online?
Everybody will get a certain level of online harassment when they get traction, when they get well known. And honestly, I think also feminists will harass other women. I mean, Christina Hoss Summers gets a shit line of online harassment by other feminists because she doesn't preach what they kind of preach. The man-hating, swerve kind of sex negative certain level of feminism.
Do you understand the key importance of reproducibility and repeatability in scientific research? That simply going to Google Scholar, doing a 30-second search for keywords and pulling out the first paper you find that backs up your stance is not a particularly credible way to do research. That you have to have a much broader overview, to read the material, to follow the citations through, to look at the broad brush approach to a particular problem.
Oh, that's rich coming from you. The amount of times I've heard feminists complaining about how wrong the scientific method is, i.e. research, peer reviewing, so on and so forth, is sexist because it's too rigorous. is probably ranks in the thousands.
You do realise that you're as much of a social justice warrior as those you critique?
I'm not a social justice warrior because I don't believe in social Marxism. I personally believe in individual human rights.
It's just that you espouse a different form of social justice, a rather less considerate, rather less forgiving, rather less kind form of social justice.
You're a fucking idiot.
If you identify as an egalitarian, then I'm interested in your take on the usefulness of the concept of the original position as laid out by John Rawls in his theory of justice.
Well, personally, when it comes to the use of justice, I always say if you have enough money, you can buy all the justice you want.
As a supporter, as a proponent of freedom of speech, why do you want to quash academic freedom? If you're not familiar with the concept of academic freedom, it's worth, in the UK at least, looking up the 1988 Education Reform Act and seeing what that says about the rights of academics to put across unpopular opinions.
I'm not worried about them being unpopular, I'm worried about their opinions being correct.
Why are you so obsessed with Anita Sarkeesian?
Because Anita Sarkeesian gets me a shit ton of views, quite a few subscribers, and a lot of YouTube ad revenue. And that reminds me, I need to really do her last 3 videos. Now, they'll probably be up in the next week or 2.
Do you really think you can spend your entire life in a perpetual state of emotional immaturity?
Well, personally, when it comes to my online behavior, I can do whatever the fuck I want to.
Do you actually imagine that you will be able to perpetuate your adolescence for your entire Wait, didn't somebody else ask this one? Wait, I gotta... Ah, fuck.
Yes, and that's the video done, and I really don't have anything to add on. So bye, and I'll see you in my next video.